Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our review of The Blacklist, Season 6, Episode 21, Marvin Gerard Conclusion, Part 1. We have made it to the showdown, the battle of the ages, Reddington versus Marvin.
Yeah, and I mean, this episode did deliver on that. Sorry, guys, if I sound like I'm stuffed up. I am under the weather, but I'm still here with you
You're fighting
guys. So
through
if
it.
I sound a little funny, that is what is happening.
Get better soon.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, this is an episode that I think it's really to set up part 2. I mean, at the end of the day, that's just where they're clearly going, but we got a lot of information in this episode. We
Yeah,
saw who the forces at play are. There's a lot of exciting stuff going on.
absolutely.
Well, before we go further here, though, of course, hit that subscribe button. We will have, of course, a lot of awesome stuff about the finale next week. There is like this twist that NBC is hyping up for this. So hopefully that will be a really good cliffhanger that will maybe tell us who number 2 on the blacklist is, or I don't know, something else. But hit that subscribe button so you guys don't miss any of that.
Also, if you want to make this sick girl feel better, what would make me very happy is if you go over to our Instagram at Matt and Jess TV and you hit that follow button. It would make my night and it would make me feel so much better.
She needs it, everybody. Okay. All right, I just want to say the best moment of this episode, by far, it's not even close. It's Reddington going into the shootout with the duck whistle. I will be thinking of this moment in my dreams. If there is ever a way to go out running into a shootout with the duck whistle, if I am ever about to run into a shootout, I am stealing this idea from Reddington.
It was so funny. I just about fell out of my chair.
You know what it reminds me of, and it's just completely disconnected. It reminds me of that scene where Reddington like took the helium alongside Dembe, where it was just like that killed me as well, and it was so ridiculous. It's just even despite him being,
That was one of the best,
yes,
funniest moments of the show ever.
it's just like despite being like a murderer and a criminal, there's still this childlike joy to Red every now and then that comes out that just like kills me, and that scene just killed me.
I loved so much seeing Dembe and Reddington back together again. And even Reddington saying over and over, "Do you know how happy I am to have you back?" I was like, man, Reddington, we're all feeling that. And it's just, are we setting up maybe for him to go back with Reddington? Because here's the thing, throughout the episode, we saw, Dembe was like, listen, I need to go be by Reddington's side. He has no one that's really loyal to him right now. The two people that are loyal to him, the sisters, they're out of commission right now. Like, he needs somebody. And I understand that I'm an FBI agent first, but really, I'm Reddington's friend first. And that's what's got to come first before everything. And we even saw that throughout the episode where he's still trying to kind of help his team, but he's like, but I'm not going to betray Reddington by just telling you, the clues are there. If you find them, you find them. That's not up to me. But like, what is up to me is that I need to be here with Reddington through this. And he's asked me not to tell you anything. So sorry for your luck.
I had the same exact thought where I feel like he is gonna go back and be with Reddington full time
Yeah,
after
I
this.
I think he's at a crossroads with this, especially with everything that's happened in this episode and it being Marvin, who's like such an important person in Reddington's life. I think Dembe's gonna go back. I really do. And maybe I'm just living on, hopeful island over here, but I like it here. The water's fine.
It is fine because I'm also living on Hopeful Island with you with this. And here is my crazy brain theory on why some of this might happen. People have not loved Reddington and Dembe being away from each other. Like, that is very, very clear. Yeah, we're on that boat. I think a lot of you guys in the comment section are also in agreement with that. And the scripts for this show are written really far in advance a lot of the time. And I kind of feel like maybe the writers have seen a lot of that particular feedback, and maybe they were like, okay, at the end of this season, let's find a way to get Reddington and Dembe back in each other's lives. I mean, maybe this doesn't bode particularly well for Wecha at this moment.
All right, so everybody put on your hard hats. Everyone who is fans of Mirza and Wecha, because I have a bit of a take on this. So you guys know how much I love Reddington and Dembe together, and I have missed them tremendously being together this season. And this episode just like really put it back into focus, because I was like, okay, you know what? He's over on the FBI now. We have these two sisters. I'm going to get to know them and really try to see if there's something there with a connection with me. And there were some moments with that, you know, where I was like, okay, yeah, sure. You know, we just really badass, you know, there's something there with Mirza. It's not the same as it was with like an Anne or anything, but you know, I guess there's something there. And the actress is just so nice. Like, she's on Twitter all the time, chatting with fans. She's so appreciative. And I'm just like, oh man, I like this actress so much. She's really sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, but the past two episodes with Mirza, especially the character, I've just felt that she's been a little bit like, I told you so, you know, this is your fault. Like, and it happened a lot in the last episode, and it happened a ton tonight, where it was kind of like, you know, Reddington's down, he's down on his luck, and things are really falling apart for him. And she's kind of like, well, you did to yourself. Well, you know, you did to yourself. Well, this is all your fault. I'm just like, wow. You're supposed to be his love and his partner. And, you know, okay, sure. Some of it, maybe he turned a blind eye to and he did it to himself. I don't really agree with all of that, but I think some of it, you know, obviously he turned a blind eye to and didn't see, but I don't think he set himself up for this to all kind of be on him, with his obsession with Liz and, you know, his grief and needing answers. Like, you know, it's part of grieving. You need answers. I get it. But when you're, you know, your partner, your lover, the person you love is down like that, you can't just keep hitting on them to kind of be like, yeah, I get that you're down, but, you know, you did it to yourself. Or I'm just like, ooh, okay, now I am out. I'm out on her.
There was this,
but I like the actress. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. I like the actress too. But there's this meme that went out there like a couple of years ago that said something to the effect of, if you don't love me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. And that just sort of makes me think of this situation where, you know, I love Dan. And I know Anne is dead. They've come out and said Anne is dead or whatever. But it is a situation with Anne where, you know, she accepted all of Reddington. Sure, she didn't know about a lot of Reddington for some of the time. But, you know, she eventually did. And there was such a love and a care there between the two of them. And, you know, I don't know if Reddington's going to end up with anybody or not at the end of this show. But if he is, I want it to be somebody who sort of recognizes that this is who you are. This is okay. I see you. I accept you. And yeah, being a criminal isn't always good for Reddington's health. Like, we have seen the deterioration of him here and there, but it's also who he is. You can't tell him to not be this way, because then you're taking away just like half of the person that is him.
Yeah. And especially with how he's feeling about Liz. This is, you know, he has said the most important person in his life sort of ever, that and he's lost this person. They were killed right in front of him. It is 2 years later, but that doesn't necessarily mean time has moved on for him. Grieving is very different for different people. Some people can get through things quicker. Other people never get through things, and it's all through their own time. And Reddington is a person, through his grief, we have seen he needs answers to be able to put things to rest so that he can move forward. And his partner, you know, Mirza, is kind of like, oh, well, if you can't get over it, you know, you're pulling everyone into the darkness and we all need to leave you. It's like, okay, well, then you've left and now you're back because your sister is, you know, in huge trouble from everything that's going on with an I told you so attitude. That's all I'll say about it. I'm no longer able to really look into this the way that I was hopeful to, which is that, I would see something there. Now I'm really out.
Here's the biggest reason why I just feel like I have to be out at this point. It's just that, like, if Reddington eventually goes along with what Mirza wants, then he's like peaceful Reddington. Then there's no show anymore. It's like, I don't want the Blacklist to be canceled in front of me because Reddington is, happy with Mirza. Maybe that makes me greedy or a bad person. I don't know, but I want what I want.
Yeah, no, it feels like they're setting up for the sisters to leave and Dembe and Reddington to be back together again. They said, she said, oh, when this is over, we're going to be going somewhere where we're going to be safe. And Reddington was kind of like, hey, can I come along? But I mean, it's sort of being set up where Mirza doesn't really want him to come along in the way that she's acting, which is perfect because nobody wants to lose him.
Exactly. So, okay, it feels like high time now to do, I guess, our weekly ritual of handing Fisher Stevens his flowers for being, like, really, really awesome because, man.
One fish, two fish? That was so good. This episode had so many just amazing little Easter egg moments. When Reddington was like, one fish, two fish, I'm like, I see what you're doing.
It was clever. And it just like, you can tell that, Fisher and James like really enjoy being around each other because it's like their interactions, there's humor, there's drama. We saw so many dimensions, I think, Marvin in this episode, like anger, frustration, him being a little bit more physical than we tend to see him. Like, he is not just some wallflower. I know Reddington was sort of like, you're not a leader, Marvin, and maybe he's not a leader in the same way as Reddington, but he's more than I thought he was.
That conversation at the end when Reddington was confronting Marvin was kind of like, listen, like, you basically belong to me. You're not a leader. I'm the leader. You do what I need you to do. I feel every void in you. I was just like, wow. I feel like that's the way it was for a really long time, but it's clearly not the way it is now. And it hasn't been for a while. And like for those 2 years, and even when Marvin was there, when Liz got killed and we saw him sort of like smiling a little, but also like crying for Reddington, not for Liz, not for anything else, sort of this relief, this, sadness, of course, for Reddington. It's just, Marvin has evolved, and I think the biggest mistake that Reddington is making is that he isn't seeing that Marvin has changed and he has evolved, and he is willing to do things that I think just Reddington either isn't seeing, or he's just trying to play this whole you're the follower, I'm the leader, to try to really push him back into that position that he's been long out of.
He's underestimating Marvin. And, and the thing is, like, I don't think Marvin's necessarily underestimating Reddington, but, he clearly misread a couple of things because Reddington was able to eventually find him on that confrontation before, of course, the FBI gets involved in all of this, and Reddington is leaving this episode, like, unbelievably mad and basically being like, we're through to Cooper.
I know. He's basically like, we're not friends anymore. I was like, whoa, oh my God, this is the thing? Like, oh no, this is not the thing. Come on.
It can't be over. But I mean, clearly there is like a big time issue at this point because, Cooper wants, understandably, to have Marvin alive so he doesn't go to prison, and Reddington thinks like he can have his cake and eat it too with all of this.
Here's the biggest problem that Reddington and Cooper always have, and it's communication.
Yes.
For years, these two will only give each other sort of like, this is what I want. I want Marvin because I need him to clear my name. And Reddington's like, well, I want him because I want to kill him. And, they're in this back and forth where that's all they're telling each other, really, and not really anything else, where Cooper's like, well, I need to be able to get out of this whole thing, and Marvin's the key, where Reddington's like, don't worry, I'll make sure that you're still gonna get out of this. And Cooper's like, how? And Reddington's like, see ya. Like, there's no communication here. Like, no. Reddington just needs to tell Cooper how he's going to make that happen so that Cooper then can step back and be like, all right, okay,
Yeah.
like we're working together. But there's always this just break in the communication. If he just told Cooper what the plan was to help him uh, out of all this mess with Marvin being dead, well, then tell him.
Yeah, it feels like, I'm an outsider, understandably, and I have no knowledge of criminal empires, probably a good thing, but I feel like you
Why
could
are you
just.
lying to everybody,
Yeah,
Matt?
I'm sorry, actually, everybody. I'm Reddington's brother. I have been Reddington's brother this whole time. That's why we're bald. No, okay. See, I think you could just be like, all right, Marvin, you go away for long enough that Cooper, you're freed up. And then what happens if Marvin just gets killed in prison? Like, if Reddington's got to know a bunch of people in prison. Like, somebody could just off him in there, and then everybody kind of gets what they want, right? Except for Marvin, obviously.
Well, here's the big sort of snag in everything, and that is that Marvin knows that Reddington has been working with the FBI for
Yeah.
years, and that is something that Reddington's criminal empire does not know, but Marvin does. And if Marvin gets pulled in, he will very likely sing like a canary so that he doesn't end up in any type of real prison situation, which will then get out and all of Reddington's people will know and it will ruin Reddington. So here's the question that I'm just going to put out there to everybody. Why has Marvin not put that card out there already? Is it because he knows he's going to implicate himself? Does he not think that there's a way for him to get out of this? Why not just tell everybody, I'm the new guy in charge. You don't want to work with Reddington because he works for the FBI. I don't work for the FBI. I work for myself and I worked for Reddington, but Reddington works with them.
It is a perfectly good sort of like Hail Mary plan. Like, I think if Marvin is smart enough to sort of figure out and anticipate a lot of other things, like theoretically, it feels like, yeah, he probably could be able to negotiate with one or two people that they could get him to, I don't know, a safe house or off the grid or somewhere else. Because, yeah, I'm sure he's worried that, like you said, he would be implicated, people would come for him or whatever else. But you could prepare for that in advance. I mean, maybe we'll get there in the finale where it's like it's either you or me and he like takes him down alongside him, but it's something that I think the show can't exactly just like tuck away somewhere at this given point in time.
I'm glad that they dove deeper into Marvin's motivation behind a lot of this, where he really was like, I don't want to just kill Reddington. I do have a love for him. I have a long time friendship with him. Like, that isn't where I really want to go with this. But I need to get rid of Liz, and she's an FBI agent. So how do you kill an FBI agent without implicating yourself? Perfect. Here comes Van Dyke, who's the perfect patsy to like take the fall for this whole thing, because that whole conversation in the hotel room with Marvin and Van Dyke to
Yeah.
be like, listen, I understand your loyalty to Townsend. I have the same loyalty to Red. And here's where we're going to help each other out, kind of thing. You're going to give Townsend, even in his death, his dying wish to kill Liz in front of Reddington. And you're going to be able to, walk away from that feeling fulfilled that you helped your boss out. I am doing something very similar. I've put a tracker in her. Here you go. Take her out. I was like, oh man, he really has thought this through.
Marvin is so unbelievably smart. Like, that's what makes him a good adversary at the center of all of this. It is his intelligence, his shrewdness. Now, I do have to say a couple of things here. I do have some beefs
Me
at the end of all of
too.
this. Okay, so
Besides Mirza.
LaCroix. Let's talk about LaCroix here for a second. How in the world is it that Reddington was not aware of the length of the relationship between Marvin and LaCroix? Because like the way that they showed it in these sort of flashbacks is like these two were hanging out or talking almost like all the time. And yeah, Reddington can trust Marvin, but I feel like there's a vetting process when you're on like Team Reddington where he would like look into some of this stuff a little bit more.
For sure. And for the longest time, I don't know why Marvin would have never mentioned his name. I mean, he's at the wedding. They went to school together. They've known each other for years. This would have been a name that would have been dropped to Reddington at some point, even just casually.
Yeah, I can't believe for a second that he would be spending decades like keeping LaCroix in like his back pocket, like just in case. He had no way of knowing any of this stuff was gonna happen. So like that's a little bit of a reach for me. Also, this is just me being bummed out. Is like we're finding out where these people stand in these two different organizations, and it's like we don't have Brimley in this episode. We don't have Paula in this episode. It's like the actual people on Team Reddington we know are like nowhere to be seen, and that bums me out.
It is a small beef,
Okay.
but it's with Reddington knowing that Marvin knows everything. He knows where all the bodies are buried,
Yeah.
and he just knows everything. He knows every place that Reddington would go. How did he not have anyone sweep his organization for bugs? I truly don't understand this, because this feels like a really basic thing that Reddington would have just had done right away.
Yeah, I don't understand that. And I understand even if things are moving quickly, it's like that's the first thing you kind of go to. Okay, let's just make sure we're not getting screwed over here, everybody, before we do anything else. But we are, I think, set up for a really interesting conclusion to Marvin Gerard conclusion now. There's a lot of different moving parts in the air. I'm really curious to know what this big reveal is going to be. I've already put my theory out there that the real Katerina Rostova is going to show up and there's a bigger bad behind Marvin.
I hope it's not just that Fisher Stevens is leaving the show. And I feel like we probably all feel like Fisher Stevens is leaving the show. I mean, it is Marvin Gerard conclusion, and as we've mentioned on a few of these videos, Fisher Stevens is a very, very busy man. He is over on Succession, which is another show that we cover here, and he's doing some good things over there. So, you know, if you haven't checked out Succession, you really should watch that along with us.
Yeah, one of the best shows on all of TV.
It absolutely is so good, and he is fantastic there too.
It's just like, if you're gonna go out though, what a way to go out with some really, really good episodes at the end of this season. We, of course, will be back next week to talk through all of this different stuff. So subscribe to the channel. We don't want you guys to miss any of that. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.